So, you want a revolving fund much like a credit card, minus the charges for a credit card, and you don't have an NCCU line of credit? Hmm. Okay. We listen and we don't judge.
Okay, so you purchased a vehicle and it wasn't a vroom loan from NCCU, so you could benefit from our variable rates. Okay, we listen and we don't judge.
You took a mortgage and it wasn't NCCU's 5% mortgage mega deal or mortgage blast to consolidate all your debts into one mortgage rate. Okay, we listen and we don't judge.
So you have a mortgage and need some upgrades in your life, and you haven't applied for our NCCUs beyond the mortgage, 6 loans at 6%, like education, medical, and vacation. We listen and we don't judge.
Your community financial partner wants you to be sound in your pocket and in your mind. Don't make financial decisions that are going to leave you stressed. We told you, NCCU is the plug for all your money moves. We have loans for all purposes. All you have to do is contact us. Pick any of our 11 locations and then just advance.
From the cradle to the grave. NCCU.
Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome back to another show. Good evening to all of you connected, wherever you're tuned in, wherever you're listening to the sound of my voice, or viewing. Good evening. Welcome to the show. It's so good to be back here. It is Wednesday, the 9th of April. Yo, I swear to God, that year is just flying. Like as if somebody chasing after the year and it just wants to finish. It's already the 9th of April. And I mean, like a quarter of the year is gone. Like a quarter of the year is practically gone. Oh my God. How are you guys doing this evening? How are you? How is everybody doing? The bell has rung. Class has begun. We're going to get started tonight. We have a guest, an interesting guest coming on this evening. And I'm really excited to talk to him because I think he doesn't realize how well I know him, or he didn't realize how well I know him. Because sometimes you just see people in passing, you say hi, hello, and you keep it moving. Even offline, we were talking a little bit, and we almost forget and run out of time, and we almost didn't have a show. We almost had the whole show offline. But I'm so excited to be bringing Albert Raffoul, aka DJ Alfy, who's going to be talking to us here this evening. We're gonna get to know a little bit about him. Interesting guy, interesting story. We're gonna get into it. We're getting into it this evening. Share the live if you're just coming in. Share the live. Let me know where you're locked in from. I wanna drop your flags. Tell me where you're connecting with me from. I want to know where you're at. I want to know. Welcome on board. Those of you who are tuned in on YouTube, YouTube. That is my preferred platform. Facebook channel kind of rotate them days. They don't want our lives to stay up for more than 30 days. So, we got to go places where it's making sense for us. And it's making sense for us creators, content creators. It's making more sense for us on YouTube. So we're pulling all of the comments from YouTube. So YouTubers, those of you on YouTube, my YouTube faithful followers, chime in the comment section, and your comments will be the first to get shown. Okay, the comments will be the first to get shown. Right. The comments, your questions, and whatnot. Someone's trying to get me. Let me just put a do not disturb. Right. Okay, great. Fantastic. We are Rolling, those of you who are on Facebook, good evening. I mean, that's where majority of my followers are, and I love you all. I am truly grateful for your continued support. And because you follow me and you love me on Facebook, I want to encourage you to follow me on YouTube, because pretty soon you might not be getting a lot of me on here, because all of them rules and regulations Facebook are just trying to implement. Jail. We don't like rules. We don't like all of these rules and regulations, right? So you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can click on the link. It's pinned to the chat, and head on over to the YouTube, and that's where I'll be pulling your comments from. Those of you on LinkedIn, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Not very often do we have people commenting on LinkedIn. LinkedIn normally just have lurkers. They just lurking. They're lurking. They're here for the comments, right? They come in and they check out the videos, but I want to say special good evening to them on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for coming in, stopping by, joining the live, sharing the live. I see my sister. My sister is always on. My sister is my ride or die. My sister Aurelie, always on. Big up to all those of you who are just joining on right now. Hi Miranda, I see you. I see you, girl. I see you, girl. Thanks for joining us. Cheng, thanks for joining us. All right, we're getting ready to get the show started. I want to big up my sponsors, the National Cooperative Credit Union. That's the NCCU, our community financial partner. The NCCU, I'm so happy that they continue to subscribe. They continue to support. They continue to, I guess, share the vision. And I truly appreciate them for sponsoring of my show. And of course, if you want to be part of this, it's very easy to sponsor. I see a few people have been responding to our emails and on our alerts. I want to big up Samaj one time, who's been like messaging and emailing folks to get them on board or get them back on board. And I've seen a few folks have shown interest, and I want to thank you in advance if you're coming on it, because sometimes they come on here, to people the show before they decide whether or not they want to go with it, right? And they're allowed to, right? So I want to tell them thank you very much for considering us, and hopefully we can get you guys on board. It's very easy, very simple. It's jael@jaeljoseph.com. You can send an email, and our WhatsApp is also available online, so you can WhatsApp. We have a few numbers that you can contact us at. But the easiest way to find us is Jael, Jael, @jaeljoseph.com. It's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, so let's get this show on the road. I want to welcome to the show. Let's see more people coming on. I see. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, thank you. The YouTubers are there. Thank you very much. I see y'all. I see y'all. Thank you for stopping by. I truly appreciate every single one of you. And don't forget, if you'd like to also support the show, you can donate to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/JaelJoseph. It's a monthly subscription. You can do as low as $1 a month to support. And I always think to myself, if I have 83K followers, if 83K followers subscribed $1, I'd be making 83K a month. I mean, listen, you could support me, right? You could support the vibe. So you could subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/JaelJoseph. That's it. Patreon, that is patreon.com /. I want to big up Maggie. Maggie has been supporting and donating, and she's been donating to my efforts here. And I truly want to show some appreciation to her. And not very many Dominicans supporting that way. So because she is one of them, I want to recognize her and tell her thank you very much, Maggie. It's Maggie Harry for your continued support. I really appreciate and love you. All right, let's get this show on the road. Let's get this show started. We got DJ Alfy. He asked me, are we having Albert or are we having DJ Alfy? And I'm like, bro, we're having both two of them. We're having both two of them. I want to say welcome. Very first time to the show. Make some noise, show some love to Albert Raffoul, aka DJ Alfy. Hi.
What's up, Jael? Good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
good to have you. It's good to have you. I saw you at the Dominica Leadership Summit. You were
Right.
one of the folks that was recognized, and I mean, if somebody gets recognized, you have to. I need to know more about the person, right? I need to know, and that was wonderful that you are recognized during this. So big up to Alex and and the entire global leadership summit organization, because
Yes.
they do this globally, and you were recognized in a big way as one of the businessmen that's reshaping and leading the way in Dominica. And I mean, hello, hello. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Thanks for having me on, man. It's a pleasure, man. I've always liked your vibes. I like how you interact with your guests, and it feels warm and it's a nice environment. So I've always wanted to be on your show. So, like I tell you earlier, I feel like I've made it. I'm on your show.
You're a fan.
I've made it.
I love having you on, and thank you very much. Look at people on the original slaughterhouse fire. People have started. People have
You tell me
started
about it,
in the comments.
people that comment in that is people that know me from like in the early 90s. Because Slaughterhouse actually was started in 1993. That's when the name was formed, and it was actually formed by a good friend of mine, De Young, when we were trying to come up with a name as to what to call ourselves, what to call us, and he that came up with the name, and it just stuck with us.
It's funny that you guys started Slaughterhouse, and there's I don't know if you know that there's a slaughter gang, which is there's a slaughter gang which is an Atlanta based organization, but the head of the slaughter gang happens to be 21 Savage, who is also my cousin, who's a Dominican parentage. His mom is Dominican. She's my aunt. So I think it's very fitting.
Did not know that. I know his mother is of Dominican heritage, but that
She's
part
my
of it I
aunt.
didn't know.
She's my dad's
Okay.
sister. So big up to the Slaughterhouse gang. I guess the slaughter name has to remain in Dominica, right?
So what you're saying is, when we're talking off here, we'll talk about getting him to do a dubplate for me. That's what you're saying.
We'll see. We'll see if we can. We'll see how we
We'll
can work
talk
that.
about that.
That's not a very hard ask. It's
Okay.
not a very hard ask. It's a very easy ask.
No problem.
We can definitely talk about that offline. But it's good to have you on, and
Thanks.
welcome every single folk that's coming on, and thank you very much, guys, for joining us. And we want to get this conversation started because some people might come on here because we have Dominicans, we have non-Dominicans, and they might say, "Who is this guy? He's still looking like he's an my friend has said an Arab." Mr. looking like an Arab. Where Mr. come out? How Mr. a Dominican? Tell us a little bit about. Give us who would you consider yourself to have been at age 6? I think we might have had a glitch. Let us know, guys, if you guys are still seeing us. I'm not seeing him. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, back on. Okay, I don't know what happened. That happens. The internet is interneting.
You see when you go and say Arab, that caused that.
Boy, Trump probably think it was something to do with him I was talking about, and he put me off.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about 6-year-old Albert.
6-year-old?
Yes.
I don't even remember what happened when I was 13 years old. You're talking about 6-year-old. Well, believe it or not, when I was young, I was chubby. I was always chubby. Yes.
So you roll like a toupee.
Yes. It's like how there's rolling thick dumpling.
Yes.
Right. Chubby, so I was. Anybody that know me from like early SME or convent prep, know I was chubby. And it's in the high school when you start the basketball, the sports, and all those activities. Then you start to swim up and tune up, and when you start to get to understand what girls is and things, then you obviously want to start.
You checking your appearance.
Right.
You check out your appearance.
Really and truly.
It's funny you say that because my son is an SMA boy, and he is very slender. And let me tell you, he is so happy he is slender. He says that every single day, Mom, like, Mommy, I'm so glad I'm skinny. So
Yes.
I understand completely the pressures that comes with being a chub. I would say I was a chubby girl. I think I was pleasantly plump. I was always pleasantly plump.
Okay.
So
I know I was very troublesome, and that's based on what my sisters tell me. Eh?
really,
Yes, and in I think convent prep, I would always bust my head. So they would always have to call my mother and tell her at the hospital.
you
So
how many times you bust your head?
in prep 7 times.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
How did those bust heads happen?
Okay, the last one I can remember, right, is we was running.
Your head
That one
bounce.
is because it was the last one I can remember it. You know, when you're running and thing. Remember back in them days, it's not like the nice concrete they have now in convent prep. It was they had a lot of dirt and things. So I'd fall long and I dragged, and in dragging I end up hitting a stone. So is it stone that burst my head? So got some
Wow.
stitches. Can't remember how many, but yeah.
But even with that, you are able to still have a bald head.
The ball head is not by choice.
No, but if you look at normally
Yes. Yes. Still
you
have
a
a ball
scar
head.
and it's smooth.
I mean, there's something. I mean, they say we walk by faith, not by sight. But since I started to lose my hair, I still asking God to send it back for me. That is one prayer He do answer for me, now. Yeah, me and God does always talk about that. So that unfortunately, that is one prayer He not answering for me. So
But
boy,
actually, it suits you. The bald head suits you.
I
Like
like my
like
long hair.
no, but it suits you. Like you are very handsome with your bald
Thank
head,
you, thank
right?
you.
So it suits you very, very well. So don't, sometimes you just ask for things that we don't really need. It's a want.
You're just trying to make me feel better right now.
It's a want. Wanting,
Yes.
wanting long hair is a want. It's not a need because your bald head suits you, and it's grown on us, on all of us.
Yes, and the beauty about it is, I mean, I can shave my head myself. I mean, every so often I'll go to a barber if I want to line up, if I want a different style.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that style, it suits me the most. The other style, I find it was making me look a little older than I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of stick to that style and it works for me. So
Is
this
that
saying, not to trouble,
until
right,
trouble you?
right. So that's the saying I have right now for myself.
So in SM in SM well in
SM, yeah,
convent prep,
yes.
you used to you bust your head quite a few times. If I were to ask the teachers, would they remember you as the boy that burst his head many times? What would they remember you as?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I wasn't that troublesome, but I was an average. I mean, boys, we are energy. I mean, if a boy is not troublesome, you'd ask a question as in if something wrong with him. So that man, they would say I was a normal boy, just being a boy.
What did you like? What subjects did you like in school? Like what were some of the things that you really enjoyed doing?
Maths. You see, science I was never good at. That's a subject I always struggled with. Science.
Mm.
I was always good in maths and not mainly maths. Thinking about it. It's more or less in high school when I got introduced to accounting. That is when I took to really a passion for accounting, and also had a good looking accounting teacher, so that helped at the same time. I mean, we're being honest. So and it's like with accounting and maths, I would do good on tests without even putting much effort into it.
It sounds
So
like
that
my
is
son
when
literature and his literature teacher. All you like, so I'm a fam.
I mean, what can I say? That's our weakness.
So you went through convent prep. You went into SME with an absolute love for math and obviously getting into accounting.
Business subjects on a whole, yes, but more or less mathematics and accounting. Those were my two. Anybody that you ask about me in high school, they would say, yeah, accounting was what I was in.
Wow. But you normally get to do accounts later, like third
Third
form.
form. Third
Third
form.
form.
Yeah.
Third form.
You get introduced to the business subjects third form. I'm not sure how it is now. If it
Yeah, I
changed.
think that's how it is still.
Right.
That's how it is still. So you were introduced to accounting, and the math and the accounting just made one, and it because you just developed a love, and that's what you do today,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
funny enough. I mean,
Yes.
clearly
Oh,
that teacher really had a really good impression.
yeah, man. To this date, when I see her, I always tell her that. I
Wow.
tell her, I mean, because of her teaching, it was so easy for me to understand when she taught. And so it was, well, Miss Vidal. Well, right now she's married. I honestly cannot remember her married surname, but Miss Vidal was her name. Can't remember the first name. I'm not the best person with names, eh?
Tell me a little bit about your home circle. What was your home circle like? Like, who were the people in your household growing up?
Growing up, well, it was, I have two sisters. So my oldest sister is Nadia, then Lolita. Then I have a brother, Johnny, and I was the last.
So it's
Right?
four of you.
Four. Two boys, two girls.
Nice.
In growing up, when I started, one of the ways I actually started in terms of mixing and mastering the art of mixing was when I used to practice at home. My sister Lolita, she would listen to me practice. And if I make a mistake, she would say, no, try it again. No, try it again. And we're talking about doing that for hours. So it's just like if you watch a basketball game and you see Curry shoot so easy. You don't see the behind the scenes practice. So I mean the amount of practice that used to go into that. And my brother was actually the one who got involved in music because my brother also went in to SMA.
Okay.
So my first set of music equipment I saw was from my brother. You know, and then eventually, so bit by bit in SMA we started doing it, and we're talking about that was the days of when you DJ and you have a cassette player and a Discman DJing with.
Yes. How was that? Explain that how y'all did that. Like explain to the youngins how you were able to do this.
When you see you have to ting the cassette to a certain point, and you have to make sure you press play on time. It didn't have sing button, you know, in those days, right? So it was a challenge, and then you got the Denon setup where you have two CD players, and that is when you really start mixing in timing. And I actually went to St. Martin where I bought my turntables. That was the first time I went to St. Martin. I went for one day, morning, come back in the afternoon, and went straight to Music Man on Front Street, got my turntables, back to the airport. Funny thing is that they had canceled the flight, so they put me up in a hotel, and the next day I came back down.
Wow.
Yeah, I came down with my turntables.
We're moving too fast. We start talking about music, and I want to pull us back a little bit because I'm interested to kind of find out a little bit about, you know, your growing up, your home life growing up, like who, because somebody might say who's your father, who was your father. I mean, we talk about your siblings.
So,
most of us know Nadia, most of us know Lolita. I know Albert, but who not Albert, Johnny. Who were your parents, and what did they do? Like, how would somebody know who your parents were if they didn't know anything about you?
Okay, so my father is Akel Raffoul. My middle name actually is Akel because the culture, the child always gets the middle name of the father, the culture, right? So now my father is from Lebanon, in a village called Bazoun, in the mountains. That's way up in the mountains, as in much higher than where Loda is for us.
Wow.
Right? So that is where the Arab
part. Tell you how he got to Dominica?
Is my grandfather, you know, to the actual story of how my grandfather found out about specifically Dominica in the Caribbean. That's a story that actually my father would have to give. My uncle Antoine, who is Nelly, Anna, and Emil's father, he could give you any history lesson where that is concerned. Well, he passed away a couple of years ago. So he knew the history in depth. So, you know, they came. So my mother is Wadi Raffoul. My mother actually by profession is a teacher. She used to be a teacher. until she started working with the business, because back in the days it was Raffoul Furniture.
Yes.
We had the factory. Initially it was up Center Roma, then it moved to Tong, then it moved to Rockaway. And eventually with the bringing of courts and things, not long after it closed down. But backing it up, so my father, if I'm not mistaken, dropped out of high school, so that way he had to work to support the family. So when I think of my work ethic, I get that directly from my father. So a lot of people don't know that part of the history. You know, many people see the success part, but they don't see the journey towards the success. You know, so the culture and from that part of the world, they are very much tradesmen, so very skilled on those type of trades. Now, my mother, on the other hand, is from Suriname, South America. No, so my grandmother on my mother's side is from Suriname, native to Suriname. But on my mother's side, my grandfather has Lebanese origin.
Origin, okay.
So even if my mother is from South America, we also have the Lebanese part still in that family. So, I was in Suriname in 2020, where for one of my cousins, they got married, and out of 21 of my cousins, 20 of them was there. So that was like a family reunion, because because a lot of my cousins are in Suriname and some are in Holland, so I don't really get to see them. So it was a nice interacting with the family, you know, because we take for granted when we have family living with us in Dominica.
Yes.
And we have family overseas. So, you know, when you really meet them, it's a joy meeting them, getting to learn about them. And a lot of them right now are married, have children. So, you know, you get to meet the families. It's a nice thing. And even traveling to Lebanon, I did that about 10 years ago. And, you know, getting to see where your father was raised and your grandfather was raised. I mean, it is a deep connection, and it gave me a deeper understanding when it's like when you hear Rastas talk about repatriation and going to the motherland and all that. It gave me a deep understanding and appreciation for that.
Because what was that like? I mean, just saying deep understanding, somebody might not understand what you're like. What was that moment like? What were some of the things you saw, or you know, that really created that in your mind?
One of the things too is in the Bible you hear a lot about the cedar tree of Lebanon, and actually being in Lebanon and you seeing the cedar tree, you got a deeper understanding, because the cedar tree grows 1 inch per year. So when you see the heights of those trees, you can calculate the age of a tree based on the height. And when you see how thick those trunks are, you then understand what the Bible is talking about when it says you planted like a cedar tree. Because of how deep-rooted those trees are, it's not easy for them to fall over. So, you know, that, and just, although the culture is different for me, because when they see me, they talk Arabic, but I can't speak Arabic.
You can't?
No, unfortunately, no. So I had to learn certain words, so that way when I go to the checkpoints, you can say 1, 2 things. And I think in going in that part of the world, you get a deeper appreciation for freedom, because it's almost like, okay, imagine you're in Roseau and you're driving to Massac. So imagine from Roseau, when you reach in Pottersville, you have a checkpoint. Then you reach in Fonkole, you have a checkpoint where you have armed guards checking your vehicles at every point. You have.
We just make a little trouble when those thing on the road, and those police on the road, and people have no idea.
I mean, even when I was driving over there, and you go to a mall, and security stops you, and they have the mirrors that search under the vehicle, looking for bombs. I mean, it gives you a different reality.
Wow.
Of life from a different perspective. And wow. I mean, there in Lebanon is predominantly Catholic base, so it's not a problem for you to say Jesus. But when you go to their neighbors, I mean, saying Jesus can get you killed. So it gives you a deeper appreciation for what we call freedom that we take for granted. So for me, that was the experience there. And also the connection. I mean, like when you talk about walking outside, walking outside if you're barefoot, it's like you connected with the ground, you connected with the earth. When you do that from a place that where you can say, okay, that is where my forefathers are from, it gives you a deeper appreciation for life, and it gives you a deeper meaning of understanding who you are as a person.
And the struggles they went through too. It's like leaving all the way there and coming to a small island, Dominica. Like, first of all, I want to know that story. So we're gonna have to figure out how we get to that story.
Even when you're up there, like when the neighbor would harvest, when I was up there, when the neighbor harvests like a potato field or the apple field, they bring for you. So it's like, because the farming culture is the agriculture is very deep over there. They're very strong on that. And I mean, you'd see a young lady like make up like you, with nails like you, and she'd come out in the garden. So the culture is just completely different. When a family does farming, everyone is into it. So it was a nice eye opener.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate that. That I'm very intrigued by migration, as you can probably tell, and that's a topic that I'm very much involved in. So just hearing you talk about it, and I'm totally, absolutely intrigued, and I want to know more. I definitely want to know more, especially want to know why Dominica. That question still lingers. Why Dominica? Why not anywhere else in the world? And hopefully we can get to explore that question.
I've asked that question many times, because you also have Raffouls in Guadeloupe, Martinique, Antigua, St. Martin. So we have family members over there. So it's from the Caribbean they actually settle, not just Dominica.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful. So let's get back to you you as an individual. So you started telling us a little bit about the music and how you really got into it and why you wanted to do music, and even going to St. Martin for a day just to get your turntables and stuff. Share with us a little bit about why that intense passion for music. Why did you have that passion to play, and not just play? And I think you were talking about the cassette and changing. I think you being an MC, like on the mic, came from the switch when you had to switch, because while you're switching, you had to be saying something. You couldn't just switch.
That story, I'll give you that story shortly.
Tell us that story.
In the Jamaican culture, they would say a selector.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so from high school, I went to Canada to study. So I did 3 years in Canada, lived in Mississauga, then Brampton.
Okay.
Right? After Canada, completed my degree.
So you went to study, what exactly you went to study?
Banking and finance.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Also accounting, but specializing in banking and finance.
Okay.
And I did my bachelor's degree. I completed my 4th year in West Palm Beach, Florida, where I got my bachelor's degree in banking and finance.
Okay.
And then from that, I came down. But if we just backtrack, in being in Canada, I was around a group of Jamaicans. And I like to give that example, because you can be around Jamaicans and they talk nice and proper. But it's like, okay, the best way I can say it is, you see, if you want to hear the hardcore patois, all you have to do is go Grand Bay.
Yes.
That was those type of Jamaicans on. They were raw patois, the Jamaican patois.
Yes.
Raw, and we're talking about 24/7.
Wow.
So I was around them all the time, and they would actually bring me out. So I would go events with them. And that is where I really got introduced to the talking, because the first time I heard about talking on a mic was when Stone Love came to Dominica and they performed at Good Times. That was years ago, right? To those people that don't know where Good Times were, that is where Pioneer Prep is in that area. It is no longer there. Warehouse was next to it. So that was a history lesson. Okay?
Age, my
So-
God, you old.
So you would go to Warehouse for the zouk, the soca, and those type of music. When you're fed up about the zouk and you want the food and you want a drink, you could cross over, you'd walk across to Good Times where you'd get more reggae vibes and the dancehall vibes. And so that's just a history lesson for those that don't know.
Yes.
Right? And when I heard him, because I saw him DJing, because it was Stone Love, he using records, turntables, talking and mixing, and that's just one person. And that's why I got intrigued by that. And it's when my brethren in Canada took me out to them underground parties, them basement parties.
Listen, those basement parties are a real thing. Like, even to this day, they still happening.
Yes. So for just to give people an understanding, Canada is very cold. So during like from about October to the whole winter season, you cannot have a party outdoors because of the temperature. So they would have basement parties, right? And now, so when we go in the basement parties, I started hearing them DJing and talking, and I'm like, wait a while, I remember that from when I was a teenager. And I just got intrigued in it. And then later on, I hooked up with a sound system from Scarborough, a Dominican crew, Japs International, So I hooked up with them. Yes, man, after all. I mean, now his nephew used to DJ on the turntables. So I used to be around them, help them carry out, help them. So every weekend.
Joe?
Boy, I cannot remember the name. It was
It's
so
Joe.
long.
It's Joe. Joe.
Yes.
Who are you referring to?
Most likely. Yes.
It's Joe.
Yes. So no, because at that time, I mean, Jabs was, I mean, at that age, he must started handing it over to the nephew.
No, I'm almost positive it's Joe. And if anybody from Canada is on the live, I'm Joe. I always tell him he's my cousin because he's Joe Joseph as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be nice to be in contact with him because it's donkey years I haven't seen, over 25 years. No man, maybe almost 30 years.
I saw Joe last summer. I saw him because he's friends with. He still hangs out with some of my very good, like one of my closest brethren. He still hangs out with him, and whenever they have backyard parties and stuff, I always see him. I always see him. He still does his little DJing, but he kind of left it alone. Like it's more like he'll do a little.
Right. So so in interact, like when I hooked up with them, so every weekend I would take the subway and go to Scarborough, and would go to events and things. And that's how I really got introduced to the DJ side of it, in terms of setting up the equipment, all those type of things. And a couple of times I DJed at events with them, and they was like, oh, but he can mix. Because even down to like mixing, counting bars and those things, all these are things I discovered by accident,
Wow.
In just playing around with learning how to mix and things. So a lot of it was self-taught in terms of counting the bars. And then as I started talking, learning is in Florida, I really did more of the talking, because what had happened is I hooked up with an American DJ who was into the hip hop, and he used to do a lot of Caribbean parties. So for the reggae, dancehall, and soca, he would check me. So two of us would link up. So then when it comes to the hip hop segment, he would do it. But then the others for the reggae, dancehall, and soca, I would DJ it, and I would also talk. Funny thing is that a lot of people used to ask Emil, because Emil used to go to that school. That was Florida Atlantic University, FAU. Right? So we used to do a lot of those sorority parties where they step in and all those things, initiating people. Right? We did a lot of those parties. So like when I see it on TV, every time I see that on TV, I remember those events.
Memories.
And that is where I really started developing the craft of talking on the mic and just getting the timing correct, because in talking, I mean, you have to be able to know how to talk and count on the beats and bars, and when you're talking, matching the timing of the beat and So, and even having a DJ DJing for you, it's also they have to know how to DJ for someone that talks on a mic. So that's how I got introduced with that aspect of it.
Why did you come back to Dominica? Because I mean, the world was your oasis at that point, right?
Yes, yes. I had the opportunity to stay up there, and at that time, once you get a degree, you could actually get a work. You could actually get a sponsor for 3 years. Because remember that was post 9/11.
Yes.
So that was in 99. Yes, that was in 99. So at that time, it was a lot easier to do things in states in
Okay.
terms of getting work permits and those things and companies sponsoring you. It was in my just before it was Ingwon University. Is not long after I met Shari, which is my daughter's mother.
Yes.
That is when we started a relationship. So after finishing school, I came down because I mean, I with somebody, and so
The
that
love was strong. The love
love
was
was
stronger.
strong, and I mean also, as mother, as we just criticize our nature island, we love the nature island.
We do.
We
We
do.
absolutely do.
So
Some of us cannot stay out for too long. I mean, I have opportunities to be anywhere else, and I hold a different citizenship. So I don't have to remain here, And but it's just my home is home. Like people don't even understand, and it's
is love for the country, man. 'Cause I love to travel. Don't get me wrong,
me too,
I love to travel.
definitely.
But yeah, home is home.
That and it's definitely where your heart is, and that's where my heart is. That's why you always come back, so you come back to Dominica and you start. Now I'll tell you where I first know you from. I first knew you from Summer Splash, and that is where I was just like who the hell is this DJ? Like, where did he come from? And y'all had a crew and people who are on, Patrickson International. I see him on, talking about, Soda House, the original Soda House and stuff. Y'all had a crew. At what point did that? Because we talk about it at the beginning that you guys developed. What were you guys trying to accomplish by coming together and creating a crew that would literally mash up the entire summer?
We had a saying, the name Slaughterhouse meant we slaughtering the music vibes. In other words, when we come to do an event, it's like what you would say, you done the place.
You done the place.
Right? So technically, that is where the play of words is. No, we've actually had quite a bit of DJs start off their career, first. So, for example, DJ Median started off on the Slaughterhouse, right? DJ Dragon was also with Slaughterhouse at the time. That's Al. But the main DJs was DJ Scare, rest in peace, and DJ Fat Track, rest in peace also.
Wow.
So you had Scare, Fat Track, and myself. Those were the 3 DJs. And then we also had Owen, who he actually runs with Triple K now. He was a part of the crew, as in for helping set up the equipment, that part of it. Because it's not like now where when DJs go and DJ, the system, everything there. A lot of times we brought our own system. So that's one of the beauties. Slaughterhouse had a full system. We had 6 Vegas and 4 JBL tops. That was before you had powered speakers. So when you say crew in Vegas, we're talking about them big, what publicity and serenade.
Yes.
Was there. So we had that part of it. And I mean, going back to Summer Splash.
Wait. Before you get into Summer Splash, I kind of want to understand the value in having a crew. What was the value for? Because nowadays you don't see many people crewing up like you guys did. Like we are Unstoppable DJs, it's the 2 of them, and I think probably that's about it. I don't think there's anybody else that kind of goes together as a crew, in other words. And I see a lot of value in that because there's something that each person can bring to the table, but at the same time you're running under one brand. What was the purpose of forming a crew back then?
You see, each of us have different strengths. So Fat Tracks, if anybody knew Fat Tracks was good on remixes. So he would just do all type of remixes for us. I was good on the talking part. Now Fat Tracks used to DJ way before me, as in warehouse days and all those things, right? So that was just
Very
his,
experienced.
yes, So if you have a crew, and not just that, if let's say you have an event to do that's 4 hours, for one person to do a 4-hour event, that is too much for a DJ. To keep a crowd hype up for 4 hours non-stop on your feet, let me tell you, that's not an easy task, So with us, we could do it where scare start or fat track start, then scare, so it's like we're flipping it. So in other words, it's almost like, think of a relay race, right? You have a full race with full energy, but you tap in each person passing the baton, right? So it's almost like that style, So it's like the energy is there, and because
You're able to maintain it.
So okay, perfect example. When we go to a place like Bowls in Granby, and the event start at 9 o'clock, and 8 o'clock the next morning, the event still going on.
Wow.
I tell you, people don't understand them type of events, Wow. Where, because it was us, it was Commodore, and it's not like you had 6 DJs on. So you're talking about DJing an event from nighttime to next morning, where you see people in the event with coffee in their hand, You check? Let me tell you about it. Right now, DJs, certain DJs wouldn't DJ for more than 2 hours. Because it is it is a task on your body, yeah? And mentally just doing that. Granted, it's different. Back then, when we would go out and DJ, you have 4 crates of records. Each crate is 150 records. So that weighing, you don't need to go gym when you see you carrying equipment. Plus, you have your case of CDs, like 300 plus CDs. Wow. So not all events you can bring all your music. And plus, we had another crate of 45 records. That's the 7-inch records. Right? So you're not carrying 2 events and you're going through that. Whereas now, if I watch, like when I go on DJ, that is my flash drive. That's a terabyte that has thousands upon thousands of music on it. Yes. So literally, I can tailor a crate now to the event I'm doing. And even if I want to go out of that crate, I still have access to my entire library.
Wow. You've definitely lived in different times. You've seen, you've been around for when computers, computers as a box, and you've got to see how music has changed in terms of technology, in terms of, you just talk about going from cassette to records to now a flash drive, and so seeing that change and that shift, that is always so impressive to me, because I always tell my son, like, I knew telephones when they were on the wall, when you'd call and you had to listen, and as a matter of fact, I knew them when you had to spin the dial, before you could punch, right? Yes. And when I try to explain that to him, he thinks like, I'm ancient, like I'm so very ancient, and it's so interesting to hear you talk about music and in that way, in knowing now that you can be so much more efficient, yet the style, though, I feel like the style has maintained, like what you guys started kind of is maintained to this day, because now most people will not hire a DJ if they're not a selector, if they're not, like they need to be able to own the crowd and rock the crowd, and so that essence of that element has remained even through the test of time.
And I've gotten plenty fire when I started talking.
I remember people didn't like it, because I remember, and that is where the segue comes, where we talk about Summer Splash, because I think that is where people started to, I feel like you guys created your own little cult of young people who were following you, and in terms of following your music, and that is when everybody was just like, we can't go to a jam if they're not talking.
Right now, it's so odd if a DJ not talking.
Right.
But if you check the history on that, from our point of view, that more or less came about when Reggae Gold did a double album and they had Adonai do a mix, and Adonai was talking on the mix. So a lot of people got exposed to that at that time. Yes.
Wow. So y'all started doing Summer Splash. How did Summer Splash come about?
Is Fort Young that had contacted us about it. 'Cause it was
What you need to bring that back? Like that was, I don't know. I don't know if they would, because I feel the
Nah, they
crowd
wouldn't.
then was more reserved and more tamed. The crowd
Yes.
now can be a bit wilder. Sorry to say, youngins, y'all a little wild. But I feel like our crowd, or that at least that crowd that attended Summer Splash, was kind of more composed, but therefore more the music and less the
I
rum.
think because of the setting, because of the Fort Young setting, it was more composed. Because believe it or not, back in the days, the crowd was as wild as it is today, you know.
Well,
The only difference,
yeah.
the difference is you don't have, back in the days, you didn't have a person with a phone to record everything you do.
Right.
So that was the difference. So that's why a lot of times people say it more wild now, but I'm like, no, those things used to happen back then. It's just that it didn't have social media to post it.
That's right. That's right. That is true. That is true. I actually had a whole show on that, talking about how social media has really changed the way we party, because now because I remember getting tear gas at WCK jams. Like
Yes.
I remember that was like a regular thing to get tear gas.
I can still to this date admire that had happened to me. And you had to run in the sea, take out your shirt, dip it in the thing, and put it on because your eyes burning your throat burning you. Let me tell you, that's not a nice thing. And they used to burst that like normal in events.
Yes, that was like something you anticipated. Like you anticipated if a fight would ever break out at a fete, at an event, at a jam, you gonna get tear gas.
Once you see people running, you just run with them.
You just run.
That's it. Yeah.
So Summer Splash started off. Fortune contacted you guys, because I guess they were adding a new element to the hotel and the experience for guests and locals, because this kind of like, I feel like happy hour kind of like almost like took over.
So
it was like a rollover.
How that part came about is we originally started DJing for happy hour. Now the first, because back in the days, remember, it had happy hour used to be a band.
Yes.
Triple K used to be at happy hour a lot. That is in the days when 90% of Triple K repertoire was Zouk.
Yes.
And less than 10% was Bouyo, right? So is when Hypnotic was introducing when Pirates, well, their name now is Pirates, but at the time their name wasn't Pirates. When they was introducing the brand drink Hypnotic, they first introduced that drink at happy hour with us DJing. So that's how the DJ aspect of happy hour started. And then because it was so successful, they used to bring us, they used to bring other DJs until it got to the point where it used to attract too many people. Because at the end of the day, it's a hotel, right? And then the idea came about for the Summer Splash, where you do events, where you incorporate like kayaking and those type of events. So they would get companies on board. So you would have companies battling out with kayaking. And that is how we got the Summer Splash started.
Wow, Summer Splash was lit. Like I swear to God, that was probably the first time I knew boys. I was like, oh my God, like this was like, it was just an event to look forward to. Saturday, it would start really early on a Saturday.
I think 3 to like 6 or 7.
7, yes.
And by after 5,
place Grace
cannot enter. No more people can enter. So you had to come early for that event.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. You what was your experience like doing this, because y'all did this for a little while. And I think that is kind of where you kind of grew, like in terms of people name recognition, in terms of where people started to know who you were as a DJ. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, just to correct you,
Okay, correct me, Papa.
People knew me as a DJ from Clocker's Party, originally from Clocker's Party, right? That is where DJ Alfy first came on the scene. All Nations, so Clockers would throw their annual Boxing Day party event at All Nations. That was the first event I did for Clockers. And that is really where my name came on the map. Because at that event, Cut was also at that event.
Yes.
Right. So that's where the name really came out on the scene.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. You seem like you have like a huge, you're still DJing today. Like you're still doing it. You're still doing it today. We thought we lost you for a little bit. You know, we did.
No, man, I've always been DJing, man.
We did.
Love still there, man.
I'm
even next week Sunday, I'll be on Picnic. And that is a combo. So Cut and I DJing together.
Because that is where a lot of us know is, you know, it was, y'all did not necessarily do it together, but it just seemed like you guys were on every lineup together. So it just worked. It
had somewhat like a rivalry. Well, most of the rivalry was really other people that was talking about it, you know. Two of us used to get on fine, right? But a lot of people would always compare us. And one of the things I appreciated with Cut is, I mean, because we've always been close. To this date, we're still close. Because you have someone who is on your level, it makes you always want to be up on your game. So whenever you have an event where you know, okay, Bucktongue is there, Slaughterhouse is there, you know you have to come and you have to bring your A game. Right? And I know for sure he would be doing the same thing. You know, so it's like, and so when we did the event at Amt in February for the first time, as in like over 20 years.
Yes.
I mean, for us, it was like, I'll be honest with you, the best part about doing that event really was because I would go by him during the week. Once a week, I'd go up Salisbury and check him, and you know, we would just go over the set, and that for me, and it's like even before we started practicing, we would just talk about anything. Most times not about music, but just anything. And not many times you have someone in the industry that's with you that you can just have a normal conversation with. And it not be talking about music. You can just have a normal conversation. So it's like being on the stage with him at Amt. That was just the feeling.
It was nostalgic too.
Yes. So the fact that we're doing it again at Picnic, I mean, that just going and be, we have something special in store.
We waiting. Picnic, here we come. Yes. So you guys would do Summer Splash, and Summer Splash used to be.
No, Summer Splash used to be Slaughterhouse.
Yes.
I think they had a couple times. He was on sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be together. It was one DJ doing it. Back in those days, a lot of events would be one DJ.
What was it like? You know, what was the energy? Tell us, take us there, because some people who were there and some people were not, and some people on here are probably too young to even know. Tell us, what was that like?
Okay, I'll bring you back to in 2014, right? Which was the last time I did it. And it was more like a reunion with Fat Tracks and Scare. And to this day, that's the last event I DJ'd, where all three of us DJ'd while they were alive. When we did Summer Splash originally, we did it in an era where it had a lot of like songs like Signal the Plane, where you have dancing songs. So a lot of times you'd be juggling, and the songs where you have a lot of crowd participation. And now because it's daytime, you can see everybody clear.
Yes.
So you can see the reaction on people's face, how they interacting with you. So I mean, the session was just hype non-stop. Interaction non-stop. Nobody not pulling. You're not seeing no empty space on the dance floor in the area. It is just packed. So it was like, when you talk about mad energy,
you need to have an old school party like that again. Just have one. Just have one.
Definitely, we have to
Like, and
do
make
something.
everybody dress in the 90s, 90s, 80s, 90s, and
Yeah.
like I would love that. I would definitely come. I'll be there. I'd be the
Yeah.
first person there. Because I mean this is the music I grew up on, right? Somebody saying memories, memories. I miss those days, on the live. People are commenting and about their experience, in Summer Splash. Um,
Yes.
so you're telling us, that's when people would dance and you got to control the crowd. Like a huge part of it was
Because I mean, Kat and I spoke about that because, like, right now, we said it's a lot more energy for a DJ because a lot of times when you're DJing, you see people with a phone recording, so you don't have that interaction with the hype from the crowd. Whereas back in the days, you'd feel the energy. You have a lot of artists talking about that because it takes more as an artist and a DJ to perform
to a
because a
camera.
lot of times you see people with a camera just filming, and because as an entertainer, you feed off of the energy, So yeah, but I mean, just the
Yeah.
vibes from those events, yeah.
That is an interesting observation that you make because, like, even with me when I MC on stage, I always look. People always say, how are you so brave? How are you so?" I always before I get on the stage, I always look for 3 people that have a lot of energy in the crowd.
Yes, and you focus on them.
I focus on them the whole night. I focus on those 3 people, and this is who I look at throughout. And it's interesting that you say that because I feel like it's for anybody who performs, whether it's MC,
Yes.
whether it's like you looking for that, you're looking for that person to bounce off to determine what you're going to play, what you're going to say,
Yes.
right? And you guys have, I mean, that's no longer happening. That's not a thing.
I think Marshall spoke about that in an interview where he spoke about that. So yeah, so it's not just us as DJs talking about that. You have artists all over talking about that. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I want to kind of stare a little bit. We talked a little bit about the music. We talked a little bit about the your school days and stuff. I want to talk a little bit about you in terms of an accountant and in finance and what has that been like for you? I mean, first of all, what was your first job? Because DJing came to me like it was a hobby that became what was your first job?
Okay, my first job as an accountant was at Fortium. Where I was the accountant. Now, before that, I've actually worked. I worked at First Domestic.
Okay.
That was the first job I got outside of university,
Okay.
right? Because before that, I used to have summer jobs. Like I worked at Astafans, those type of things. Actually, a lot of people don't know I was the first male cashier in the supermarket. At
Really?
Astafans. Yes. And let me tell you, cashing in a supermarket wasn't easy, eh?
I cash out as the fans too.
Let me tell you about it, eh?
Okay, so I know.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
Yes. So the beautiful thing is that I worked under St. Lucian. He was the financial controller. And when we spoke and he interviewed me, his point of view, I was like, he wanted somebody straight out of university. Because he saw it as he can teach, train me, and mold me exactly how he wants me to do work. Because a lot of times when someone comes from experience, sometimes you have to untrain.
Tricks.
Or sometimes they were taught something incorrectly, and now it's like you have to correct something that and tell them, well, no, it's not so, it's so. So he actually made me go in each department and spend like a month. So in accounts payable a month, inventory, accounts receivable a month in each. So I actually learned the system in detail.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I did 3.5 years at Fort Young because I was always somebody, I didn't like to stay too long at a place. right? Because I wanted the experience. At that time, you're hungry for experience. And when you're an accountant at one job, there comes a time when it becomes repetitive. So after that, I worked as a resident accountant at Navigon Consulting. And that is where I gained a lot of experience in terms of the auditing field. So, and then after I did a 2-year contract, believe it or not, I went back to Fort Young and did a 3-year contract.
You were missing Fort Young, man.
So when I went back to Fort Young, I went on as a senior accountant because at that time they didn't have a financial controller, so it was just a senior accountant, and it had a junior accountant. So yes, yeah, and then did work for some other group of companies. Went self-employment for a while, but then shortly after I decided to go the self-employment route. Not too long after that, I got a job at Domlec where I was the accountant, where I did financial reporting, the budgeting, forecasting, management of fixed assets, quite a bit. And I did that for 11 years.
11 years, eh? So you old, right? You're trying to tell us you're old.
No. I'm believe it or not, again, it comes back to love of country, to show you how much. I was born in the same month and the same year of our independence.
Wow.
So I'm actually what you call an independence baby. I was born 12 days after we gained independence.
You're a carnival baby. Don't try that. you were conceived carnival.
Yes.
And born in independence. Giovanni's also a carnival baby, so I know.
Yes.
That is interesting. So you were born in 1978.
Yes.
Wow. So every year you celebrate independence.
Yes. Independence and birthday.
Literally.
Yes.
Literally. What date, if you don't mind me asking? What date in November?
15th. Dead half in the month. So Scorpion. So we're lovable people. Very lovable.
My mom was a Scorpion. Okay. My mom was November 11.
Oh,
yeah.
So we're lovable people.
Yeah. So was Fadina, November 11th as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So wow, that's interesting. So you worked at Fort Young, you worked at Domlec, you've done all of this, but then recently, or at least most recently, you decided to venture out and open a theater, a cinema.
So it's myself and a business partner, 2 of us. So it's not just me alone.
Yes. So you guys decided. Well, I mean, at the end, we're talking about you. We're talking about you now.
Yes.
Decided to open up. When did you realize that there was a need for that, and how did you come to that conclusion that that's what? Because you and your business partner, I'm sure you guys sat down and you said, okay, this is something that can work. When did you come to that realization?
He first approached me in like maybe about maybe 12, 15 years ago. No, close, maybe 20 years ago, right? We spoke about it, but at that time, you're young, so spoke about it, never spoke about it for like how many years later. And then after Maria, we spoke about it again, and we said, that is something we can, time passed now, and this is something that not there. Let's look into it. Because I'm a movie lover, right? One of my areas where if I just want to clear my mind and just do nothing is watch a movie. That's my peace.
And the crappiest movie is always good.
Yes.
Yes.
So we because I used to actually travel to St. Martin just to watch movies.
Joke.
Serious. I'd hop a plane, watch movies for a weekend, and come back now. In the theater.
And those days were cheap to St. Martin.
Yeah, that was in the days when going St. Martin was next to nothing.
Yes.
Right? So, and then we spoke to Vanessa Prevost about it and if they would be willing to do it, because initially when we spoke to them before Maria, they was going to do it themselves. But then after Maria, they got damage and things, so they said no, they're not doing it again. So then we took up on the venture. I mean, the only disadvantage is that 9 months after is when COVID shut us down. So we're still recovering from COVID, believe it or not. How
Wow.
many years later? Because the entertainment industry got hit that bad,
Wow.
you know. So so we decided to do it based on a love for it, because I mean, when you see you just get the feedback from people watching a movie, I mean that just says it all, you know. So really and truly, it's because of the love of it and the
Wow.
passion behind watching movies. Both of us love to watch movies.
Well, tell us a little bit about, you know, the process in getting in acquiring, you know, like acquiring the movies, you know, because it always seemed like it was an impossible venture, you know, to because sometimes, you know, you've actually played movies before it's played.
Yes, we do.
Like, because
So
I remember a few times, you know, being told, I'm gonna watch this, and I'm like, but it's coming out this weekend. Like, I'm in Canada, I'm like,
yes,
it's coming out this weekend. How are you gonna watch it now? And they're
yes,
like, well, it's out in Dominica already, you know, and it
right.
comes out like y'all are like up to the time.
So the beauty is that, right? So back in the days, you would rent what you call a film as a reel, as in the old school reel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because it was so expensive to rent, they would have to wait to get it from St. Martin or from another Caribbean island, as after like maybe a couple of weeks passed, several weeks passed on the movie, to be able to afford it, right? So they could never play a movie as soon as it came out in theaters
I see.
back in those days. Now, with the digital age, we get movies to our server. So we have a server, not to get too technical. The distributors of the films have direct access to our servers that they gave us. So they send the movies directly to the servers, and they would send the keys and everything to be able to play the movies. So now movies generally release a day to 2 days before it's released in North America, because North America release date is normally a Friday, whereas we get it on a Thursday, sometimes a Wednesday. Right?
Wow.
So that for us, I mean, I've had
An
people that,
advantage.
yes, man, I've had people that watch Fast and Furious on the Wednesday and then calling their family member and bragging to them saying, till Friday you have to wait for it to
I
go on.
know.
You know, for them it felt a pride in doing that, you know. And just because the theater is actually 7.1 surround sound system, a lot of theaters are 5.1, ours is 7.1, and the film is shown in 2K, 4K in our price range for
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Right? So the engineers actually came down from Miami to do the tuning of the theater. So if you listen to movies, that's why the quality is that good. We have a total of 19 speakers in that small
Space.
theater. Yes.
How many seats? How many seats do you?
180.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. Initially we were supposed to have 200, but because the seats were slightly bigger than original, we had to end up cutting out 20 of them. It wouldn't be comfortable to sit if we
Wow.
had smaller. So yes.
It's too bad you couldn't go up in the ceiling, you know? You can have a higher, you know, above ground. So I mean, I want to commend you guys on this venture because I think it has made a huge difference in our lives as Dominicans, you know, because yes, we like soft life and Dominica is nature and we want to do all of these things. But every now and again you can walk into Emerald movies and
Yes.
and it's almost like you've gotten out of Dominica because you know you have your popcorn and everything and you're in the theater under your cold AC, you have to even wear like a sweater and you get to watch your movie and then you're in North America or you're in a different country
Yes.
for 2 hours.
Yes.
So I really want to commend you guys on that venture. I think
Thanks.
it's added a lot of value to us that love that sort of entertainment. And also probably, you know, like couples wanting to go out on dates, children wanting to have
Yeah, it gives the opportunity for that.
right.
Yeah, because we have few places you can go where you take somebody out on a proper date. if you exclude restaurants,
Right. Exclude
there's not,
restaurants is not really anything else.
you don't have much. So
Mm.
yes, we get that a lot.
Yes, so that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I want to touch a little bit because you obviously, you know, I mentioned at the start that you were recognized as a business leader, and people might say, but I doesn't have in a way, you know, like what are you talking about business? Okay, Emerald, we hear about Emerald movies, and might be wondering like what else is going on. And I know you have, you know, you have um, your own little organization, or I should say not little, but you have your own organization called Financial Breakthrough Services. You were actually wearing
Yes,
one of the
yes, that's actually what I'm wearing right now. Right? So
tell
you
us a
see,
little bit.
you have to understand, DJ Alfy, he like to be in the public. Albert Raffoul, he don't like the public. Right? So it's two completely opposite people.
Sasha Sav, you're Sasha Fierce.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yes. So right now, I used to do my side projects with clients before whilst working at companies, but right now I'm fully self-employed where I run my own where I run financial breakthrough services. So financial consulting, QuickBooks maintenance, training, monthly accounting services, you know, tax consultation, tax preparation, VAT preparation, business plans, cash flow projections, CIPO filing. CIPO is like your annual returns, that's filing with the company registrar. You know, these are some of the services I provide. Um, for me, my passion has always been small businesses. You know, because as a small business, for you to really be able to make proper calculated decisions, you need to have proper books and proper record keeping. So it has always been my passion to work with small businesses, and I believe I've come to a point in my career where I could venture out on my own and say, okay, I'm doing this full time now, so it's no longer a part-time position. So doing my accounting full time, my DJing full time, that's my bread and butter.
Wow, that's wonderful. Congratulations on
Thanks.
that. I know you worked with multiple different organizations.
Yes.
I also want to touch a little bit on your affiliation with medicinal cannabis. Um, we
Wait. Not to label it. Let's just say my affiliation with cannabis. We like to put titles.
we don't have any cards. We like titles.
We love it. Unfortunately, we love it. So yes.
I mean, the first time I actually knew that you were interested in cannabis, or you had any interest in cannabis, you made the news. You
Right.
actually made the news a couple years ago. There was an incident that happened at your home, and someone actually passed away as a result of that incident. And I just remember like feeling like really like horrible for you, you know, like because I think I did reach out. I don't remember if I reached out to you, or it
Yes,
might
you
have,
did. Yes, you did.
like I might have reached out to you, because I just remember saying, but oh my god, like, because I always saw you as this really nice guy. You know, like yes, you did your little DJing thing, but you never hear nothing bad about DJ Alfy. You know, you never hear DJ Alfy nothing, and then I'm like cannabis, you know, and then obviously with all of the negative connotations that can be easily attached to cannabis, you know, and I hear your name in that, you know, you feel, I think it plays on your emotions, thinking, oh my god, drugs, you know, you think that's the first thing you think of,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your first of all, tell us a little bit about that incident, if you can, what you can tell, um and how you got involved with cannabis.
Okay. So let me just briefly talk about the incident. To what I can say, one of the charges has been dropped. Not dropped, was dismissed by the magistrate, right? The second charge is currently still pending, so that I cannot talk about that. So for that reason, we cannot really talk about it,
Okay.
because I also have my lawyers actually working on other stuff to deal
Yes.
with that, because that was an attempt to tarnish my reputation. So that's why I cannot really go in details on that, because it's still a pending case. It's still an
Okay.
open case. All right. But in terms of when we talk about cannabis, right? From since a small age, from since a teenager, I've used it. Even when I think of university, I would have a small quantity smoking at times because I've always had issues sleeping. So I used to use it for sleeping. I was never somebody to smoke to get high, right? And for some reason, I cannot say why, my tolerance for it is high. So I cannot, if like two of us can be talking, and if I choose to smoke a joint, it will not affect me in terms of where I am at the point where I cannot function, right? So I got into making the oil for myself because at that time I was going for a medical issue where I had to do surgery, and a lot of the drugs they was giving me wasn't working, and I just realized I started to get addicted to some of them because of the pain I was going through. And for me, I'm a person, I never like to be and I've never found myself in a situation where substance controls me.
Yes.
So
Okay.
whether it be alcohol, granted, I'm not really an alcohol drinker. For me, it's more wine, champagne, or beer or Guinness. That's really my what I drink. I'm not really a person to drink hard liquor. I was never that, right? So that's where the love for it came about. And when I did the oil for myself, a couple people had asked me about it, and gave them the oil. And then when I saw the results that was happening in terms of using it, where in the part of it, not for smoking, but for like oral consumption and for a different form of just rolling it and smoking it. Because I liaised with someone from Canada, and they really gave me the insight on like how to do it and everything. And it's in doing that I realized the benefit for it. So we're talking about cutting out six painkillers to just put in the oil. Which it helps you. And I mean, that is where it really sank for me. Hey, okay, this is not just something where a lot of, because like you said, a lot of people just think of it as you smoke it
Drugs.
high. Yes, they call it a drug, right?
Drugs.
But I mean, even as a believer, when you read Proverbs, it talks about God giving all the seeds for you to go forth, right? It talks about the seeds. And I mean, so even the fact that a society can take a plant in its natural form and demonize it, that alone says a lot, right? And I mean, we know that stems a lot from the war on drugs from America point of view, and right now, we're making more money on taxes on cannabis than America. You see? So right now, they are advocates for cannabis because of the potential they see from it from a financial point of view.
But that was what it was initially. It was because they couldn't figure it out that way, and other people were doing it.
So granted, we are behind on that because we should be because I mean, when you think of what cannabis can do for you, when you spend serious money on chemotherapy that not even working for you,
that actually destroys a lot of your body.
All these are things that cannabis can help and just have a serious impact on society on a whole, from a medical point of view.
So I suffered from with a lot of pain in my lower. So I have a protruding coccyx. So I suffer from a lot of pain. So I can't lie on my back. I can't sleep on my back. And because of that, I started taking the oil. Like just in the oil, and then even like putting like 2 drops on my lower back, and pain would have been gone. Like when I tell you gone, but it's not even in a way that it's like you don't feel like, like sometimes you take pain medication and you just feel like it does something to your body. You don't feel like it just like almost like the oil just passes right through your system, and you just feel so much better. And I know a lot of people use it for different, I mean, you talk about chemo, I know people use it for lupus pains, I know people who've used it for like we talk about back pain, toothaches, all kinds of things people use it for, and it really does help. But currently you're working or you're serving or you've served on the medical Cannabis Advisory Committee. Tell us about that experience and what do you think about the future for cannabis in Dominica? What does that look like?
Okay, so recently I got appointed as a focal contact for the Society and Public Cannabis. So within what the government is doing right now, they had chaired by the Ministry of Agriculture. They have several groups they formed, and each group is targeting different parts, right?
Okay.
So you have, for example, the religious and sacramental purpose, you have the medical and medicinal area, you have the education, information, and communication. So you have different sections of it. The economic area. So the one I am leading is the social and public forum, the cannabis. So what it is that we are basically looking at the social aspects and the public aspects, and we are looking to make recommendations, put together a proposal to the government where that part is concerned. And we have different people within that group. So you have doctors, you have social workers, you have youth leaders, you have what else? You have people that deal with the psychiatric ward. So you have different areas. So what we're looking to do right now is put together a survey where we can get an idea of the different uses within the Commonwealth. So that way we can then put together different proposals for the government where the social and the public part is concerned, because that has to be a serious part where educating the public on cannabis is concerned, because when you're going into the commercial side of it, a lot of people don't understand the commercial side of it, because when they see commercial products, their first comment is, okay, will I get high from this? Because that's always their first thing,
Very true. Very true.
Because people hear about experiences, but a lot of times is the experience they hear about is not people taking the cannabis in the pure form. They would mix it with something else. So a lot of times you hear about the psycho issues with it. Most times it's because people mix it and contaminate it with other products. So there's a lot of public awareness that has to happen, because that industry, the potential is just so wide. Because for me personally, I'm not in favor of just medical cannabis.
Okay.
I'm in favor of full legalization.
Okay.
Because we don't restrict.
You kind of like taking the stance of Canada.
Basically, or we can say Netherlands too, Holland.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, because when you restrict it to medical only, they will have so many loopholes that other ventures can happen. You limit what you are, you limit the capability of it, because okay, when someone uses it for a different purpose, if someone wants to use it for recreational purposes, because if you think of it, the age limit for alcohol is 16, right? Legally. So at the age of 17, a 17-year-old can go and buy any amount of alcohol he wants, right? Now, from the cannabis point of view, the approach they're taking will be much different, right? And much more responsible, because we want to make sure we cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Because it's an area that you have to educate the public. But from an economic point of view, the benefits are just so great. Because if you talk to farmers, so many farmers send their children from growing, and that is from an illegal point of view. Much as if you can give them a legal point of view, and not just from a legal point of view, you then increase the quality of the product. Because if now a farmer can grow it without fear of pollution, he now can get proper farming techniques, do it organic, in terms of light structure and all those things. It can take it to a next level where we can compete on an international market, because our advantage in the Caribbean is our climate.
Do you think we're ready for that though?
Right?
Do you think we will see that in our lifetime?
Well, I'm hoping. I'm hoping. We have to walk by faith. But based on my participation in trade shows in the cannabis industry overseas, and I mean, when you look at the technology that's there and where they are, we're not even in the race. We're not even a part of the race. We're on the sideline just watching. So yeah, it will take a lot of work to get there.
I know like one of the people who's heavily involved in cannabis in Canada. Actually, he's considered number one in cannabis in East Dominican. He's actually from Vegas. So that is a big deal, like, so that is somebody that y'all should tap into,
Yes.
because that's Brandon Roberts. I don't know if you know him or you've heard of him. He is number one in Canada when it comes to, he does like cannabis education. He does farming. He does the whole works. He goes to different sites. He's actually been awarded multiple times as top cannabis grower in Canada, like for a number of years.
Okay.
And he's from Dominica. He's Dominican, so that's somebody that you guys should look to tapping into and seeing. I know he's in the process of completing two books on production, or around production and education, and that's somebody that, and he goes all across Canada. Like, Brandon knows every nook and cranny in Canada because people have sent for him, to, whether it was for training, for teaching, or to help in their own production. And he's on LinkedIn. You can find him on LinkedIn. It's very easy to find. Just look.
You'll be his contact after.
He's calling. Once you see him, you'll know he's a. And I mean, he left. He's Dominican born. Went to university. Left Dominica. Went to university in Canada. Went to Guelph University, and that is where he studied this. And that's how, that's how he was able to remain in Canada and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the good things is that the consultant that was brought on is also Dominican. Marshall, Dr. Emmanuel,
yes,
and he has led the Caribbean in that field.
yes,
So I mean, that is just a major step.
yes.
Because we have a Dominican that's based in Jamaica that is leading the cannabis industry in terms of educating, talking, and helping, consulting with the laws. So
I think when we think of the economy, Brandon might be your way, because Brandon, he's very much involved in teaching people how to make money out of this, and how, like, the best product. And I mean, he came on my show a couple years ago, so you could also check out the video, for those of you who are interested in knowing a little bit more about that. And even for you could also go on my it's on my YouTube. You can search him up, and it was a very long and very informative, and all of the things that he knows. And I'll definitely put you in touch with him, connect the two of you. I really wish you guys well in that endeavor, because I know it's going to be, it's not going to be it's not a short process. As you say, there are multiple groups.
Rome wasn't built in a day, so
Right. Obviously, there's multiple groups dealing with multiple or
Yes.
different things, specifics, and I really wish you guys all the best with that. Yeah, I'm really interested to see, hopefully in my lifetime, if anything, if what will come out, of this, of this whole, what is it, a consultation? What is it? What you guys calling it? A committee.
Is a committee, is more like a committee of different people for a 6-month period.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
so
Yes. So
I
let's
mean, based on that, because you have the legal part of it, which is the lawyers, mainly from lawyers, so it is all of them coming together, and so they're trying to ensure that they cover all grounds.
Mhm.
So it will be interesting to see how that works out. But I mean, the potential is there. Definitely, the potential is there. Because I mean, we can't position ourselves to be the leaders in the Caribbean, in the cannabis
And
industry.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
It
I hope
will
that
take a
happens.
lot of
Like
work.
I say, I hope it happens in my lifetime.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. People nowadays, if people want to hear you, see you, get a feel for you, they can catch you on Vibes Radio. You
Yes.
do a program called I think it's called the Upliftment Vibes.
Yes.
That you do on Vibes Radio, and
Every
that is every Thursday. That in itself is a whole different level of DJ Alfy. That a lot of us, I remember when I heard that you became a Christian, I was like, say what? You know, like how did that come about? And tell us a little bit about your program and what it entails.
The program started when Vibes Radio just opened up. So initially I started on 93.9 FM, which was not the main one, 99.5, right? So that is how we started. And then I believe it was after COVID, or in that after Maria, I believe, is when we switched over to 99.5. And then after COVID, started doing it remotely because there's a period I stopped for a short time and then came back on. So that is a program that I've done with Vibes Radio from the get go. And I mean, Vibes Radio has always been supportive of having me on board and just, pushing the vibes and pushing the faith. So I mean, give it up to Vibes Radio. They have always supported me in that area.
That's wonderful. That's what made you want to join, I guess, Christianity. What was it?
It's not a matter of, okay, the best way I can describe it for you is a calling. When God has a calling, when you have a calling on your life, it's almost like, that friend that wants you to do something for them and they keep on choking you until you have a choice but to say yes. It's that aspect. And I mean, in coming to the faith, certain aspects of the DJ section I gave up, but as you get deeper in your faith and you get wiser, you understand that, okay, there are certain things that you can do, because at the end of the day, my relationship with God has not changed. I mean, a lot of people think so, but at the end of the day, it has not changed. Yes, I still provide entertainment on different stages, but for me, that is in a sense a job. The entertainment side of it.
Do you feel pressure though? Do you feel a level? Because I mean, unlike you, I grew up in Pentecostal church, right?
Yes.
This conversation could go on forever.
Yes, definitely.
But so I grew up in Pentecostal church, and I always felt that it was always black and white. There was never a gray area. And it appears, and that is obviously me trying to put a label onto it, that where you walk, the area you walk now is kind of the gray area.
Yes,
where you're able to still play at events that when I grew up, they would have been called worldly, right?
Yes.
And then you are still able to be in church on a Sunday and probably even play or serve, because people who walked or who attempted the gray area would probably be all the way in the back
right
of the church sitting there.
But, I mean, okay, let's look at it that way, right? If we think of Jesus, if Jesus had to come to Dominica, right? First of all, they would say Jesus running woman. Let's be real, because he was at the well with a prostitute, with a woman that had 5 men, right? So they would say Jesus running woman as one, right? They would say he's a thief because he's a tax collector, right? So when you think of Jesus' lifestyle, Jesus did not associate with church people in the sense of they were the people, in other words, those
were the people that followed. Yes.
Right. In terms of the era you grew up in, when you say you go to Pentecost, where they say you couldn't wear a pants on a pulpit,
Yo,
right?
as a woman, right?
Right.
Because I remember when my mother, when my mother came back from vacation in 1991. I remember somebody, and I remember who it was. Like saying to my mother was wearing a pair of jeans, and they were like,
Yeah.
you know, like she backslide. You
Yeah.
know,
Because I mean, if you see me dress when I go to church, I mean, I normal majority of the times I have on a jeans. You see, because for me, it's like a lot of times we want to condemn people, but the thing is that Christ came to educate, not condemn. You know, so
and who are you to judge?
right, and I can give you a perfect example. When I'm a person, anything I go through in life, I ask God, okay, what is the purpose of me going through that? What is the reason I went through that? And from the incident, when I spent several days in the cell, I was like, okay, Lord, at that stage of my life, I confined to a 7x7, whatever the size was, right? And I'm watching, I'm in the cell watching it, and I'm like, mentally, that was the freeze I've been in my mind. Because the biblical story that came to me was Joseph in the Bible, right? And when I asked God, what was the purpose for that experience? The word that came to my spirit was God telling me, in order for you to relate to someone that has been through that situation and talk to them about me, you have to know what it is to experience what they experienced.
Wow.
Right? So many times we tell someone, okay, don't do this. But why? Why not to do it? You know? So now, when you come from a place where, okay, I can tell you not to do that because I've been there. And in doing that, this is what it caused from me. You know? And things. So when you see you get to that understanding, I mean, granted, you know, it I have a therapist who I talk to, and you know it because same way you work on your physical body, you have to work on your mental, you know. And I mean, granted, we've been in a society where we used to say you have to be a mad person to deal with a therapist, but we go to the dentist once a year. Well, it's supposed to be every 6 months. We go to the doctor, supposed to be once a year.
Yeah.
You know. But then the most important part of ourselves,
That controls everything.
because biblically, the battleground is in your mind. That's where the battle starts, is in your mind. Because before you do something, you first have to think it. You know, and a lot of times we don't approach it like that. So a lot of what I experience, I see it as a education, and it's like, because in life we get the test first and then the lesson. In school, we would get the lesson first and then the test. Life is the reverse.
Wow.
You know, and when you just look at Jesus' life and who he associated with, who he spoke to, who he dealt with, you know, you ask yourself, is because me looking at anybody on the road, there's no difference between us.
Right.
The only difference might be I came to a place where I said to myself, I cannot do it on my own. I need the Lord. Right? So I need a savior. That can be the only difference between me and somebody on the side of the road. So it's not like I am better than them or they are better than me. It's just that I've accepted that I can't do it on my own. I need a savior. And just the fact that somebody say they are a believer, they accept Christ in their life, that means that you admit that you're not worthy and you need a savior. In other words, you cannot do it on your own, you know, because one of the beauties is that God like to see you in a position where you're broken so he can mold you. Because many times in life, we like to be in control, right? And sometimes God have to humble us in a position where he said, hey, you think you're in control? No, I gotta make you realize it's me that in control. You know, and I've been in a situation where I had no choice but to depend on God. I couldn't call a friend, I couldn't call a contact, I couldn't
No
do
smoke
anything.
signal, nothing.
Right. And God said, no, no, no. You see what you're going through right now, even with the case and everything? Shut up, be quiet, I will deal with it for you. So that's why I said I cannot really talk about it right now. At a later date, I will
Yeah,
be able to talk about it. But for now, God in control, you know?
yes.
And it is a beautiful place to be when you like that.
Wow. As somebody who wears so many hats, I'm sure, I mean, you talk about mental health, but I'm sure life gets stressful,
Yes, ma'am.
and having a strong circle definitely helps. Tell us a little
Definitely.
bit about your family and the friends and how they've supported you, not just in your business, but just getting through life.
It one of the biggest supports I've had was definitely my sister and my mother in going through this. And I mean, when we talk about a mother's love, let me tell you something, eh? I can definitely talk about my mother. If my mother had to give a kidney, a rib for her children, she would do it. That's my mother for you. You know, so, and I mean, that support from them and just, you know, people reaching out to me, I cannot complain. That did mean a lot. It also showed you those that wanted to see you fall. So that's the beauty of everything. It also showed you, okay, these are the people you need to cut out of your life.
Mm,
You know, so I mean, you have to look at it like that. So yeah,
wow.
definitely family, and I had some you would say tight brethren of mine that yeah that stuck by me. So yeah, definitely it meant a lot.
Wow. I want to give the audience an opportunity to react or comment or send
No
any
problem.
questions. So I welcome the audience at this time because we're coming to the end. We've been on here for an hour and 48 minutes normally, and we could some people that say, "Oh, I don't have much to talk about," and
Yeah,
we could be here for at least 3 hours, if not
yes,
longer.
definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
so easy because we kind of just breezing through on certain
Yeah.
things, but even to go into detail because there's so much more I want to say about, especially the religion, the church part of things, and we promised that we would have this conversation off air. Um, however, I want to give people an opportunity if they have any questions, if they want to send any words of encouragement to you, if they want to. I see Miranda is saying, "Row Jael, great show tonight." So she's enjoying the show. There are quite a few folks locked in and listening and viewing. So if you'd like to send any comments, you can do so, and I will bring it up for Albert, aka DJ Alfy. I know people like Patrickson International was like really like raving, about you as a DJ. And one of the comments, his earlier comments was, teach them about the art of DJing cassettes. Like
You
so
tell me about it, eh?
quite a
Cassette days.
yes, yes. So I mean, we have so many like people around us that we don't really recognize just how much of an impact that they have or they can have or they're having in our community, in our space. And you are one of those Alfie who definitely has made a mark and has made an impact, be it musically, be it. So you are like Tara just said, here, I mean, or you're a true trailblazer,
Thanks.
that
Thanks.
is, Tara, just sending something there. And D Sugar was saying something about next year. I think she's talking about having an event,
I
uh,
know that.
next year when I come down for the Val, she wants to.
As the Atlanta Massive.
Yes, yes, definitely. But you definitely have done a lot, and continue to do a lot. P folks can hear you every Thursday night. On was it every Thursday night? So it
Every
will be
Thursday
for
night, Vibes
every
Radio,
Thursday night
6
on
to
Vibes
6 to 8
Radio.
p.m.
Yes, so they can check you out on there. I don't know why I want to ask this question, because this is not a question I normally ask people, but what sort of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
You know, you're the first person to ask me that, you know.
And it's not a question I normally like to, it's not a question that I would want to ask people, because I feel like it's almost like asking people about the end, their end, you know. However, I think when I think of what you've said, and where you've dabbled and where you continue to, it's like, ooh, what do you want people to know about you? Or, you know, when you eventually go to meet your maker, because we all of us will go there at some point, you know, what
One,
legacy? Yeah.
one of the things is knowing your purpose, right? Knowing your purpose, knowing your calling. Knowing your calling from a faith base, from a business base, from a personal or friendship base, right? And from a business base, I want to empower small and medium businesses, the SMEs, right? And to impact them where, because really and truly, the framework of a society, business-wise, is small businesses. So I want to empower business owners to know that some of the mentalities that we have, where, you know, like when you're making money, some people have a stigma that it's a bad thing. Like, no, it's a good thing, because if you look from a biblical point of view, when they gave the talents and they gave the 10 talents, God wanted the return. So what God is saying is, whatever I give you, you have to invest it, you have to make it make. You see? So when you put yourself in a position where your money makes money, that is where you have to get from a business point of view, because at any day you can get sick, you can break your leg, something can happen, you cannot work, and you want to make sure your family have food, because at the end of the day, it's feeding your family and yourself. You know, because of some of the stuff I've gone through, I also have a passion of talking to men, especially from a mental health point of view, because many times we judge men's action, but no one asks what led to that action. And a lot of men suffer in silence, because we've been taught from a very tender age, talking about your feelings is a sign of weakness. If you cry, it shows your weakness. Yes. So that was drilled in your head, right? So I mean, many times, like, perfect example, when I went to the dentist, I took out all 4 of my wisdom tooth one time. They asked me if I was crazy to do that. I said, well, when I think about all the pain I go through in life, that just adding to it, no big deal. You know, because
you lost your wisdom.
I took all of them out, surgery. Right?
Why? Were they troubling you, or?
Yes, there's actually pushing down on my teeth. So actually, that's one of the reasons I have the braces right now, to correct that issue. You know?
I have all mine. I have all my wisdom.
Let me tell you about it, eh? And I mean, as I mentioned, the braces, when I put it on a year and a half ago, someone made a comment to me, like, if I'm not too old for that. And I'm like, does taking care of yourself have an age limit? Do we stop care about ourselves? Because remember, our body is the temple of God. A lot of people associate that with only sex. But you have to look at it in all aspects, in terms of how you present yourself, how you take care of yourself, how, from a mental point of view, from a physical point of view, on what you eat and those type of things, you know. And then from me as someone who considers myself a servant of Jesus Christ, is just preaching the message of Christ. You know, it's letting people know that you can disagree with people, doesn't mean you have to hate them, because Jesus preached love, right? So because you have a different faith than me, because you have a different belief from me, doesn't mean 2 of us cannot be friends, doesn't mean 2 of us cannot reason with each other, doesn't mean 2 of us cannot educate each other, you know. So, and because it has so many people suffering, mentally, physically. So for me, when you think of legacy, I would say, what did he do to talk about Christ? Yes, the music there, the accounting there, yes, that there. We know that there. But what did he do to preach about Christ and to impact others? For me, that is what that would matter. You know? Because I mean, when we talk about church, I mean, even right now, I do some, I have taught Bible study. Actually, I will be doing some Bible studies this month. So it's something I do because I did a course recently, a year program in terms of biblical program. We also taught about preaching. So that is area I think, because same way like I practice to DJ, if I say I want to talk about Christ, I have to also put myself in a position where I'm teaching myself, entertain myself. So whether it's DJing, accounting, or from a biblical point of view, you have to put yourself in a situation where you want to elevate yourself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Dennis is saying great program. Alfie seems full of wisdom for his age. Um, Gilda Miller is saying, big up yourself, Alfie. Great interview. You know, folks are shouting you out on the
Yes,
line.
New
And,
York massive that there. Big
and
up Bronx, big up Brooklyn. Yes, man.
appreciation
Definitely.
to you. Alfie, it was really a pleasure having you on the program here this evening. I think we learned a lot about you. And it was just funny that how much I knew about you that I didn't know that I knew. Like, sometimes you know
Yes,
stuff,
yes, yes.
but you don't really know that you know. So even you talking about Canada and the people that you hung out with, like we like it was all of these people I know, like, so it's just kind of wild, how things happen. And I really want to commend you on what you've done with Emerald Movies, you and your partner, your business partner, what you guys have done with Emerald Movies, and the work that you continue to do, even with your program, your weekly program. Every now and again I come across it. I mean, every now and again, because normally I have a show on a Thursday night.
Yes,
So
yes.
on Thursday nights when I don't have a show, if I'm driving in the car, I will hear it because my radio is always on Vibes Radio 24/7. So big up on that, but especially big up on the role that you play in small businesses, in terms of empowering small businesses and the impact. I mean, as an entrepreneur that works with small businesses all the time, that says a lot. That says a lot, because you could be in any big job with any big official position, but staying around small businesses, really, it's really it can be really taxing.
Yes, it
but
is.
but at the end of the day, I feel like the greatest reward is seeing the success of a small business and knowing that you probably had a small part to play. And I say a small part because nobody really amplifies the huge impact that the people who tell you about the money make. Everybody just see the money makers, right?
Yes, yes,
That's what
yes.
they really say.
Thank you.
So I really want to, commend you, and I want to open up the floor right now to you. If you'd like anything you'd like to say, any final words that you'd like to, anything that we missed that you felt like we should probably talk about, I'd like to leave that up to you now.
Let me tell you, it has so many things we it's not forgot to talk about, but it's almost like you give an executive summary on a story.
Yes,
Because if we had to go in details in a lot of areas, I know midnight would take us there.
definitely.
But sometimes we watch interviews that last 3 hours and we're like, what? But then it's not that difficult to do a
It's
3 hours.
not. It's not.
not.
Once there's conversation and it's interesting
Yeah.
and intriguing, we could be
Yes.
here until
Uh,
night.
Before I give any last remarks, I want to commend you on your platform, because let me tell you something, the little posting I doing with DJ Alfy and on LinkedIn with my accounting, that is work. And I hardly post. That's one of my disadvantages. I hardly post because it's a lot of work. You need a team to keep up with that. So I want to commend you on that platform. You know, keep doing it. Keep pushing. Sorry. Keep pushing the vibes. Keep promoting the culture. I mean, we're a small island, but I mean, just see the impact right now as a small island we can have. I mean, right now, Booyah taking over. You know, so and that's a genre.
It's taken over.
Yes, it's taken over. I mean, back in the days, the biggest song was Balance Batty, right? And that used to play in Trinidad. Right now, you're at a point where people in Trinidad, you'll find Dominicans in Trinidad saying, hey, the amount of booyah we're hearing right now. So, you know, never underestimate. So I say that to say, as a people, never underestimate what you can do. And never say, because you can only excel to what you dream of and what you vision. So if you vision yourself small, you will achieve small. If you vision yourself on a larger scale, because remember, we serve a God that has no limit. So whatever you vision, and you say, okay, just like we were talking, and you're telling me, you know, everything you do, you ask God for guidance. When I have my plan, I have my expectations, I have my proposal I put towards God, and I tell God, this is some of the things I want to achieve as an individual, because I'm currently in ACCA doing the ACCA program, and that by itself is a task. Anybody who has done ACCA or is doing ACCA or CPA know that is not an easy task to accomplish and still have all your jobs you're doing. So my closing remark is, as individuals, regardless of where you are, always ask God for the guidance and tell God your vision. Tell God where you want, what you want to achieve, what you want to see yourself doing. Because you are only limited to your vision and what your mind thinks that you are able to do. Once you see you can break past that barrier and that mental block, and then you can foresee, and then you can actually vision yourself doing greater and bigger things, God will give you the resources to do it. You understand?
Amen. I mean, it's very easy to say amen.
If you make me continue talking, you say it's a message I can preach, you know, you can don't turn that into we can go from Alfy to Albert and then back to Alfy. You check. So, but yeah, man, I mean, it's surely a blessing to be on the platform with you and to just talk about.
It was wonderful.
Back in memory lanes, I mean, you know, definitely see you next week Sunday.
Yes, because
yes,
somebody actually got me a ticket. So
that's
somebody decided to gift me a ticket to attend. So I'm looking forward. It'll be my first picnic.
Okay, so it's my first one too.
Yeah,
I'll look forward to your review. You know, and definitely
I will. You know that is there strong.
Yes.
I love the. I did review you when you perform at Curl Festival, I believe. I did review your yeah.
All right, that itself, how that happened is a story by itself. That was not planned. That was planned. We did it this Snow and I did it this Sunday.
Yes.
We planned it Thursday.
Wow.
You know, I mean, that was just so. It was me telling Snow, boy, I wouldn't mind running a session before the reggae artist, but he was supposed to be on the Friday, and then he got switched to the Sunday. Then he called me and said, Alfy, what you saying? I say, we want
divine intervention.
Yes, man. So, you know, I mean, big up Snow. I mean, Snow for me, I don't do use it with like a little brother, but for me, that is how he's like a brother to me.
A brother, yeah.
You know, so I mean, big up Snow, and I mean, I cannot tell you about next week Sunday. See you next week Sunday, and I'm not big up, man. I don't consider him a friend. I consider Cut a brother, right? Because we share a passion for music. We share a passion for DJing. And I mean, over the years, that friendship has more or less developed into a brotherhood. And I mean, I know he himself will say the same thing. So definitely, big up the Salisbury Massive, big up Cut. Yeah, next week, Picnic. Definitely memory lane.
Yes, yes, yes. It was a pleasure. It
It's a
was a real
pleasure.
pleasure having you on
Definitely.
the show. I see some folks coming on. You're gonna have to
Yes.
rewatch from the start, and you can always do so. Thank you again, Albert, for joining us. Truly appreciate you gracing us with your presence and sharing a little bit about your life, and also inspiring some of us. You know,
Thank you.
you're definitely one person that you walk the gray line and you walk it well. You walk the gray line very well, and big up to you one time for that. And I look forward to seeing you perform next week, and also just in the future, like we
Yes.
have a conversation to that we have to continue offline.
Yes.
At some point in time, I'm sure we'll continue that, because you've always been part of my address, because I get all your flyers for Emerald
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
should
man.
definitely
Definitely.
a little bit of rapport, especially around the religion stuff. I want to talk about that stuff. But
No
yeah,
problem. Definitely.
it was a pleasure indeed, and I want to wish you all the best. Okay,
Thank you for having me on, man.
you're
God
welcome.
bless.
Bye bye, guys. That was DJ Alfy, aka DJ Alfy, Albert Raffoul. Big up to him one time for stopping by and sharing a little bit about his life. Oh my God, this was really, really good. This was a really good interview. If you missed it, you can check it out on YouTube, because this live on Facebook. Those of you who are viewing on Facebook, it will disappear in a month, but the YouTube one remains there forever. So you can go and check out the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. It's actually pinned up at the top. Big up to you, Allison, for just joining in. Allison, I'm sorry you missed it, but you can always catch it later. You can watch them repeat and over again, and make sure you guys share when you do. Thanks to my sponsors, the National Cooperative Credit Union. And if you're interested in being a sponsor, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me, Jael at jaeljoseph.com, and let us know that you would love to come on board as a sponsor for the shows. I mean, that's how I keep the lights on and the internet on, right? So I truly appreciate your support. You can also join my Patreon if you'd like to do so. It's patreon.com/, JL Joseph. You can join my Patreon on there. You subscribe for as low as $1, and every month, you're pushing the vibes, and you're really helping keep the lights on. This is my information up top. If you'd like to support, I really truly appreciate it. I also want to say thank you very much to Albert for stopping by and for sharing all of these gems, talking to us, taking us down memory lane. I'm excited for next week Sunday. I don't know about you, but I'm excited for next week Sunday. I want to make sure, because I have a bad habit. Like, if an event starts at a certain time, I'm always coming like 4 hours from the time I think it's going to end. So I just hope I don't miss anybody's set, because after 4 hours, I can't. I can't stay at an event for more than 4 hours. That's my cutoff point. So I really hope I get to see him on next week. Fingers and toes crossed. I want to say thank you very much to every single one of you who joined us here this evening. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for your love. Thank you for those of you who shared, those of you who come on every single week, every single night. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, we got Trevely. Yo, y'all need to, if you don't know about Trevely, you're about to find out about Trevely. I am inclined to actually do a review of one of his songs tomorrow during the day. I'll let you guys know if I'm doing that at some point. We'll see how my day works, because my days lately have been very crazy. But tomorrow's Trevor is going to be joining us, and we're going to be chatting right here on JL Joseph Live. Thanks again, guys, to all those of you who tuned in. Big up yourself one time. Stay true to yourself all the time, and we will see sometime soon. All right. I leave you with a word from our most valuable sponsors, the National Cooperative Credit Union.
So, you want a revolving fund much like a credit card, minus the charges for a credit card, and you don't have an NCCU line of credit? Okay, We listen and we don't judge.
Okay, so you purchased a vehicle and it wasn't a room loan from NCCU, so you could benefit from our variable rates. Okay, we listen and we don't judge.
You took a mortgage and it wasn't NCCU's 5% mortgage mega deal or mortgage blast to consolidate all your debts into one mortgage rate. Okay, we listen and we don't judge.
So you have a mortgage and need some upgrades in your life, and you haven't applied for our NCCUs beyond the mortgage 6 loans at 6%, like education, medical, and vacation. We listen and we don't judge.
Your community financial partner wants you to be sound in your pocket and in your mind. Don't make financial decisions that are going to leave you stressed. We told you, NCCU is the plug for all your money moves. We have loans for all purposes. All you have to do is contact us. Pick any of our 11 locations and then just advance.
From the cradle to the grave. NCCU.